and welcome to Third Eye Thinkers. I'm your host, Michelle Welch.
And I'm your host, Megan Benanti. Thanks for showing up today.
You look pretty today, Megan.
Oh, well, thanks.
She looks like a ray of sunshine. You got red and orange, and you match your jewel box, your treasure box over there.
That was kind of an accident.
All coordinated.
Yeah, I feel like this is my Bo Peep outfit. So
you said that, but you look darling. I love it. Yeah, I love your necklace.
Well, Michelle always looks beautiful.
No,
so.
Thank you.
She's got it naturally.
No, both. Both of us do. A natural radiance about us.
Yeah, we got good auras, right?
Yeah. So today, Megan, well, actually, let's just say how we came up with this topic. So we had a wonderful weekend. Friday and Saturday. We celebrated the birth of our lovely Megan here.
It sounds like I had 2 weeks of birthday celebrations, which I really didn't.
But hey, that's okay. I have friends who celebrate it for a month.
Yeah, but I'm not a millennial, so it's not really appropriate. A couple of days is good. A weekend.
Actually, it's not a millennial. The people I know, they're not millennials. They celebrate for now. They're not good friends. They're like, funny. The older they get, the more they celebrate. They're like, hey, might as well. I'm still here.
Yeah.
Right? No, so we went to, it was funny because it was a city that I looked up, and I was like, oh, where is this? This must be near Houston. Anyway, it was near my hometown. It was like 30 minutes from Longview, Texas.
Yep.
And it was just lovely. We had such a great getaway.
It was really beautiful out there. There's like a 19-mile lake, and it was awesome. But we got into some fun stuff. There were a few of us. We rented a cabin out there, and so we got to really play and hang out, and it was a lot of fun. Michelle and I rode out together.
So we had some discussions about all things psychic and all things, spiritual, and maybe not all things, but many things. Yeah. And we had some great discussions about mediumship. So we decided to discuss mediumship today.
Yeah.
And kind of our beliefs around mediumship, how we integrate that into our practice, or if we don't. And so I'll just start if you want me to.
Go for it.
Just briefly. I am someone who has never really sensed a big difference between the spirit worlds. Okay, so this is going to sound maybe bizarre to some, but I have said it before, so just here we go again. I just don't sense a big, what they call the veil between the living and the, I feel that a lot of people say the veil is going away. I just don't know if there ever really was a veil. It may be something of a man's construct, potentially, just something to think about, that where we maybe didn't want to see, or where we were afraid to see, because I always saw. And so, now not always every second of every day, but since I've been young, I would see. I would say through the veil, whatever you want to call it. So it wasn't unusual for me to see spirits, or to see, I will say departed souls, or to speak with them. Now, I don't all the time. I don't always get those type of messages, and I don't necessarily call myself a medium. But for me, I don't necessarily sense as big of a difference between it as many people do. There will be some people, mediums, who are take very great offense, I think, and I would never want to offend anyone with what I believe. It's just what I know. It's not even what I believe. In this instance, it's what I've experienced. For me, it is very natural for someone who's departed to come into a reading. It's not always it's not always on command, though, for me. Right. So that's why I don't necessarily book a whole lot of mediumship readings, and sometimes I may refer them on, because if I don't get anything specific, I'm not going to ever tell anyone, of course, that I did from their loved one.
Right.
So I hope I'm making that clear. So for me, there's just not that big of a difference, so it feels like a reading. It feels like I'm talking to Megan.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that clear. I mean, it may come in like through sometimes it comes through really clearly, sometimes it comes through a little distorted, but it's not what everyone else has always told me how it would be, how the messages come through. It's very different from me, because I've always just been like, well, they're just kind of here. I don't really see the difference. And I don't see that they go to this far off place where we can't access them. And I have had loved ones pass, and the same, I feel they're very accessible to us.
Well, that's interesting. And I really connected with what you were saying about the veil, because I just considered myself a wildly imaginative child. But I think the veil actually is probably constructed from what we believe that we shouldn't be seeing or are not seeing. And so a lot of that has to do with what we're told is real versus not real. So I think I grew up with a very thin veil as well. And I was, my mom passed when I was 4, so I was very acutely aware of the pain of loss, but also, and I didn't necessarily see her, but I saw a lot of things, and I don't think I ever made any judgments about it, really.
Yeah, there's no judgments about it. I think you felt her, though.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a form of it, right?
Oh, definitely. And I never had a sense that my mom wasn't with me. I always felt like she was with me, right, from the time that she passed. But I kind of oddly, like when she passed, I wanted to see her, as an empty body. And because I was so young, I was like 4, they wouldn't let me. And I just remember the frustration about that, because I needed to see that she had gone, and I wasn't allowed.
They didn't think you were ready for that at that age, but they didn't know those particular giftings. They didn't understand the giftings that you had too.
Yeah, and for me, it just, I don't know, to being the person that I am, that wouldn't have scarred me for life, kind of thing. But in our society, that's generally not considered. And
at least here, because so many other cultures and countries do make death so much a part of life,
right?
And are actually more healthy about it. I think.
So, and back to mediumship. I'm sorry, I digressed with that, but I don't actually do a separate mediumship reading, because, and I generally just sort of loosely say, oh, it's not my strength, which I wouldn't say really isn't the case, because I see through so many planes and on so many levels and in different ways. I mean, it's kind of cool, some of the things I've seen in time, over the years. And but like you said, when I'm connecting, it's so gentle, and I'm looking, the more validation I get, the more connection I have. And, if they're like, no, and they might not know, because when you're doing mediumship, sometimes it's not about what you're seeing or what they know. You might be connecting with something that they've got to go home and ask somebody else about, and that happens a lot. And so, but if we get a lot of negatives, I feel like I kind of shut down.
Well, and I think that for you, you and I see the same way. I mean, on the different, I believe in past planes, future planes. I believe in future readings, not just past life readings. I believe in connecting with people on all planes, and I feel you just said the same thing with you. And so I think probably why you say, well, I don't just have mediumship readings, is because of some definitions that I believe are a passing paradigm. I believe that there's some old definitions that maybe it's time that maybe those have served us for a while, and maybe there's some, they may still serve certain people who that's what it fits them, but I don't know that we have to put it in a box, that mediumship is this particular way of doing it, and this is how you have to do it, because it comes to people in different ways, and I believe I'm the same. It just all flows. So all of a sudden, I may get a message from a departed loved one. I may get a message regarding a disincarnate, someone who maybe hasn't passed, who hasn't, who may be still lingering, which is a different subject altogether, but, well, somewhat of a different subject.
Yeah, I think it's fine to lump it in with this.
It's a harder subject for people to hear. But I think it's time, potentially, for those of us who read on many different planes to realize that we're opening up to more planes, and so is the general public. They're coming in, they are realizing that we're not just these linear beings. So I think it's a good time to have that discussion. It's interesting. We don't, just so our listeners, you guys know, we don't sit here and discuss what we're going to talk about ahead of time. So Megan and I don't. So it's interesting when we have a differing opinion, or when they're aligned. and we align on a lot of things, but we do have some differing opinions too, because that keeps our friendship interesting and the show interesting too. But on this one, yeah, we tend to be the same on that.
Yeah.
I don't follow a lot of rules with it. I mean, for me, it's the compassion. It is also, I do want to make sure that there's a purpose for any time I read. I want to, not just a curiosity. What's the purpose? What is it, healing? Mm-hmm. What's the purpose of the reading? But for mediumship, I've had a lot of people come to me who come just for that. Maybe right after a loved one has crossed. One of my readers, she has spoken openly about this on one of my store, shows.
Okay.
And she's very openly spoken about it. And she came to me right after the death of her brother. And she's very dear to me. So you can, watch that. I won't go all into it. But she spoke very openly about it. And that's how we became friends, because it was the day after her brother passed. And I did. I told her things that immediately she couldn't validate, but I kept going. Mm-hmm. And then when she got the police report back, she found, oh, yes, actually, that is correct, and came back to me later and said, exactly what you said is what happened.
Oh, wow.
And it happened the way you said, whereas originally she didn't realize that was. So, I've heard you give readings, mediumship readings, and I'd say don't doubt yourself at all.
Right.
Keep going. You know that because you do give mediumship readings.
Yeah.
And you're very good at them, but you just aren't used to calling them that. And I don't know that we have to.
No, that's true. Michelle and I, actually, it was kind of fun this past weekend, because we were reading for someone, and I started with one thing, and then she picked up and ran with it. So I saw part of it, and then I kind of just blanked out, and she totally picked up.
You actually didn't blank out. I think you blanked out of remembering what you said, because you actually kept interjecting. You had more. It just came to you in bits and pieces.
Okay.
So we kind of fed off of each other.
Yeah, but I was like, our combined energy was really cool.
Really strong.
And I think there's something to that, as far as, if people do mediumship circles and things like that, which I've never tried, but I did find, when you're with other psychics, you can do a lot of powerful work.
I do think that is true.
Yeah.
I will touch on this. I don't think you need a lot of tools. Everyone is different. I don't believe that you have to have some sort of seance thing or really creepy thing. It's just not creepy.
No.
They've just moved on to a different plane, a different. I'm just gonna say a different plane.
Right.
It's just a different frequency. That's it. And I don't think that has to be. It's not spooky. It's not spooky at all. It doesn't ever need to be that. And for the people who feel like it's spooky, or you're dipping into an area you don't need to go into, I have never experienced that. I've experienced love coming from the ones that I speak to, and maybe that's just the intention I set, and that's what comes through for me. I've never had anything come through where I have heard people say, well, I don't want that relative to come through, I don't want this to come through. But to me, they've crossed, and they're dealing with some things in a different plane of existence, and so they still have ego to a certain extent, but they're dealing with that and working on that.
Right.
And so it's the vibration and the frequency is just different, and potentially it is because I've said it of love and light and that alone to come through. But I've never really had anything scary in those situations come through to me.
I've never had anything negative come through, and that's also one of those things that just fascinates me, though, that people get really worried about what's going to come through. And I know it's out there because there's stuff on it, ghosts and hauntings and all that. And but I just never experienced that. My stuff has always been really positive.
I'd say if a disincarnate, which is what I call someone who, a ghost, basically, that hasn't crossed, and I do think that's a completely different show that would be very interesting for us to do. So let's mark that we'll do that. But I do think that it's not really so scary. It's mainly sad. And I always get very actually irritated with people who make, let's go do a ghost tour. And if they really believe it and they really see a disincarnate, if they truly have, and they're truly in a place where someone's trapped, then they should try to cross that person to the light, because that person's sad. it's such a sad situation. Why would they want to keep them here? Why would they want to hold them here and profit off of that? To me, I would want to help them to transition to the light.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you ladies think that it feeds from the energy you're giving? Because if you, Megan, you were saying that, you know, you only had a positive energy come through. So, you know, you have very good positive energy. So I wonder, you know, you kind of attracting good energy and everything else kind of stays away.
Yeah, I think I'm very well protected by my guides and angels. I just think I always have been, but I'm kind of fierce. I've got a lot of lion in me. I'm a Leo. And even I had some healing work done on me recently, and she said, "Oh, the angel Ariel came through," and I was researching that, and Ariel's often represented by a lion, and so
and
I was
wind,
like,
by the way.
Yes. So it was really cool because traditionally my symbol that I'm always drawn to is a winged lion. Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, how about that? I mean, I literally just put one in my driveway last week.
Oh, that's cool. I do agree with that, Anna. I think that it's the intention we set. We align with, now, do I think sometimes somebody might come in for a reading who's looking for something a little darker, or looking for, just for lack of a better word, because there is polarity. I mean, that's a law of the universe. There's polarity. There is. So does that mean good and bad? Not necessarily. It just means polarity. I can't define that. I can't judge it. I just know how something feels, and if it feels not in alignment with my vibration, then it might not feel so good to me. So as a reader, I have gotten sad information. And I'm very honest about that. And I do know I have struggled in my younger days with negative things around me. I have struggled with that. I do think that that's very real. And some of us are called to do that work. So it doesn't necessarily, I would say it doesn't necessarily mean that someone has a negative energy if that's who they work with. It may be that that's just their calling, is to work with those types of energies. Does that make sense, Anna?
It does. It does make sense.
Yeah, so I think it can be both. I think very positive people could work with a lower vibration energy to help people with that. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And on that note, we have roughly 12 minutes left.
Okay.
All right.
You want to go over your crystal?
Yep. Okay. So quickly, I brought my crystal today. I brought moonstone, and moonstone can come in different colors, just based on the way it's formed, and some anomalies that may take place in the crystal. So you know of the white, bluish moonstone. We have a picture there, and it looks a little more. That picture actually has some gray. So I said black moonstone. Gray or black moonstone, I believe, can help connect us with our mediumship. There's a lot of different stones. I keep this beside my bed, the black moonstone or the gray moonstone. It comes in peach, white. The rainbow moonstone, by the way, that is labradorite that we've gone over before. So when you hear that, it's the same thing. But the blackish, you can see some peach in here too. The black or gray, I believe, just kind of connects us with the other side of the veil. Because of that terminology that has been used so much, there's some universal consciousness to that, and people believe that. So it just connects us with that. It's a very feel-good stone. It'll also help you sleep. It also helps with anything moon. It's very soothing. I'll cut it short because of time, but the black or the gray moonstone is what I would do for some mediumship. Again, a lot of other stones. The one other thing I'll say about crystals is I think that crystal would need to be a very personal crystal to you. If it's one you work with your mediumship. I have one on my desk that I grab all the time. It's actually not a black moonstone. It's it's a quartz crystal that has some other properties in it, and I don't let anyone else use that crystal.
Yep.
That's a personal crystal to me. I don't use it for crystal healing. It's just mine.
Right. No, that makes sense. I actually am oddly protective of my crystals, which ones I'm going to use and which ones it's okay for other people.
Right. So which herb did you bring today?
So today I brought black-eyed Susans, also known in the Latin form as Rudbeckia. And black-eyed Susans are kind of cool. And this was an interesting one for me because intuitively I was searching. And sometimes they say it can take a while for a reading to come to fruition. This was a reading that I had 18 years ago, and I was meeting, we did a group thing with a medium. It was Marvina Meeks. She's from the Dallas area. I don't know if she's still around or not, but she said, oh, your mother is showing me Black-Eyed Susans. And I was like, I don't know what that's about. Well, yesterday I found out, which was really cool. So Black-Eyed Susans, they're kind of, it's an aggressive clearer. And sort of like using, what did you, black?
Gray or black moonstone?
No, but the one, you said.
Black obsidian?
Yes, because you said it's kind of aggressive,
yes,
and it happens really fast, and you sort of have to be prepared for that kind of change. Yes. So, so it's going to clear what is no longer serving you emotionally or spiritually. And if you're interested, I was researching in The Magic of Flowers by Tess Whitehurst. So it can be kind of disruptive to your outlook on life, but it's really going to help to manifest. And so if you want a calmer way to work with it, sit by the plants and near them. I have a hard time growing it because my rabbits eat all my rudbeckia, or Black-Eyed Susans.
They eat everything.
Yeah,
it seems like.
I definitely have bunny issues around my house. So. Just kind of be prepared for what you're ready for. Now, if you want a more direct kind of influence of it, you want to use the essence from the flower. And you can add a droplet to a mister, and you can have other things in that mister as well. No more than like 4 drops, though. It's pretty intense. Just be prepared for the amount of change. It can also be really grounding for you. And kind of connect you to the earth. So if you're working in a field where you have to deal with like heartbreaking situations, like in a trauma hospital, or you're dealing with drug addictions or something like that, this is also a good time to kind of use that oil, because it's going to help you to ground yourself and be really steady through the difficulty. It was really cool. Another thing that Tess had mentioned in the book too was that it's a good balance for positive, negative. So it brings in that yin and yang, because you have that burst of yellow and then you've got the dark center. And so it is that idea, because some people think of the veil as being sort of a dark veil, and so you're entering that other world. So if it's something that, if you want to try to connect a little bit with a loved one at home too, you can have a bouquet of flowers around you or something like that. I would be a little conscientious about going directly into an essence with it. Right. But
interesting. It's interesting how you said it can be grounding too, because people might think, okay, if it's grounding, then how is that going to help you connect to the spirit realm? But actually, when you do mediumship, you need to have grounding and be connected. Which is actually something that I failed to say about the moonstone. The gray or black moonstone does the same too. It kind of connects you between the realms. So you're grounded, but you're also connecting between those realms. So that's interesting.
Yeah. I sort of think of myself as like a hollow cylinder sometimes when I'm trying to work.
To channel, to funnel it.
So
like
I'm rooted and then reaching up too.
Yeah.
So.
Do we have time for reading? Okay.
Okay, so let's do this. You want to pull out your deck?
Yeah.
Her deck was sparkly, so we had to go with that one.
So again, we have Ciro Marchetti's deck. It's called the Reflections deck. This deck is, let me see if I can get this over here. Megan, can you? There we go.
You got it, sister.
It's a beautiful deck where he has picked some of his favorite cards from all of, maybe not all, but favorite cards that he's done from his various decks. He has a lot of different decks. So this is a beautiful, beautiful deck. And I will begin to shuffle.
Do you want charms?
And yeah, let's do whatever you think.
Okay, let's go for charms today. So I'm going to pull out 3 here.
How much time do we have, Anna? About?
Maybe 2. Let's see what
5 minutes.
A few minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, well, let's do 2.
Okay.
It's okay, no rush.
Okay. So do you want to see, did we have anybody specific that we're going to do a reading for? I'm going to let you take these.
Okay. So first off, charm-wise, while Michelle's looking to see if there's anybody specific we need to read for, we've got 2 charms here that you guys can choose from. And so we'll do a reading for each, starting out. We've got a yoga person, and which is interesting because I pulled a card before this that was called yoga too, from
right from my deck.
Yeah, from an oracle deck. And then we also have a chess piece. And so if you're connecting either with a yoga person or the chess piece, pick one there, and this will be your reading for the week. Okay. While Michelle does her looking. Oh, you shuffled, right? And I don't.
Well, sort of. I didn't shuffle. They were already pretty shuffled.
Okay. So, all right. For yoga person, we have 10 of Cups, Ace of Swords, and the Hermit. So, you have a thought?
Go? I do.
Yep, go for it.
So, in general, the first thing that comes to mind is this is a person that, for you, if you pick the yoga, it is a time for you to enjoy some things in your life and to take the time to enjoy them. Take the time to enjoy your family, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's you with your animals, you with your children, you with your spouse, whatever that family looks like for you. But where my attention is really drawn, if we can move my cup here, I'll show you, is to this Ace of Swords. In this instance, I feel like potentially there's some overthinking. So some of us tend to overthink. So my message is, don't overthink everything. Maybe just sit with some things and be for a while and go inwardly. Don't try to figure everything out. Don't get stuck in your head trying to figure everything out, but go inward, and then you will have the answers to take outward that I get here from this Hermit card. So enjoy, and that's what, even in this position, that's this position of this yoga or yogi is, when you finished your work, it's not savasana, but you're sitting there and you're breathing. You're
right.
in a
meditation
position, and you're meditating. You're going inward, so then that you can go outward. Stop going so much to the mind to try to figure everything out. Just be.
And what I got with that too, 10 of Cups, kids are back to school. Ace of Swords, you can go back and kind of focus on work and personal life, and it's like, whew, okay, I get to be a little more selfish right now. And do what I need to do. And then the Hermit, to me, that's also a 9. So you're looking at September, and this is going to be, it's kind of recentering yourself as you kind of get back into the world. And, that's full on energy coming out of Mercury retrograde as well. So, take it and run with it.
And I think so many things happened in August. So now it's time to just, to some extent, to just be in September. There's things to take and run with, but also I'm really make sure you just take the time for yourself too.
Right, absolutely, because this was closure in August, and then the September is really going to be about you. Now, if you pick the chess piece, we've got Ace of Coins in reverse, which interesting, we got another ace there, the High Priestess, and the Chariot. So interesting that we've already got 3 major arcanas out today, so big pivotal changes for people.
I don't know my chess pieces, you guys, so I'm not sure what chess piece that is. So I will be reading without knowing. Is that a king? Is that a pawn? I'm not sure. So I'll be reading without knowing what that is. I'm just reading it about chess and what I know about chess. Okay, so do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Go ahead.
Okay, so immediately I'm just drawn more to the chess piece. I'm drawn more to, again, I'm getting a lot of logistics are coming into play, a lot of strategy, a lot of thinking steps ahead, and sometimes that's not always paying off for people. I'm just really getting strongly that we need to go more into our intuitive side, and I'm going to let you address this because it's not even the reversal that's holding me up. I'm just not to it yet. We really need to, as we strategize, sometimes we think we're so many steps ahead, but the universe can throw us a curveball because we think we're manifesting what's best for our highest self, but sometimes we may not know. So sometimes when people are doing this, I'm big on the universal laws right now because everybody knows about the law of manifestation. I'm going to manifest. I'm going to manifest this in my life, but they forget all the other laws.
Yeah.
And so they forget that there needs to be balance in their lives, and so they're not really sure what really is best for their highest self. So sometimes we get a no when we manifest. And so, but there's a lot of drive coming. So if we'll check in with ourselves and then I'm getting this as personal drive to move forward, to move our pieces, and don't be afraid to make a move. You don't just have to stay there till everything surrounds you. You can make a move, but go inward first. And I do believe this has to do with some people, specifically with their work this week. You're going to have to apply that how you think, since we're reading broadly. You think it may apply to your work or specifically to your finances, but I do think you need to go inward first before you take action.
Yeah, and what I'm looking at with that Ace of Coins in reverse too is that, that career had been kind of a focus, and in August, and that really got held up and tied into that that Mercury retrograde energy. And so High Priestess, now you're kind of ready for the next move. We're going from 1 to 2, and this is part of your personal evolution, and it's really opening up spiritually and dynamically, and trusting your intuition, and also building some stability in the background, and some emotional stability, which might have been a little thrown out of whack during the retrograde. And then going forward with this Chariot energy, that's going to be fast moving, and you're also going to be in a position where I really think you're going to need to take charge of things, and you're going to be comfortable, but it's going to be go, go, go. And that's interesting that we end on a Chariot for the chess piece, because a chess piece, it is all about how you move, and it's dynamic thinking. Chess is a game of intellect, and so this is really tying a lot of growth and challenge in here for you. Whereas with the Yogi reading, we ended with the Hermit, who is also a traveler. And so that's moving forward. The Hermit was moving forward, but in a much more internal way, whereas this is going to be externally. This is a time of action for you.
Right. I feel like people are ready to move forward with a lot of things. We're ready to take action and move forward, but we're just not. We were waiting. There was a lot of waiting, and a lot of kind of building up of impatience. I felt with a lot of people who came in for readings, but things were kind of bubbling up in August, and they're ready to act. But just make sure before you act, you really check in with yourself, that sits right with your gut, that's really what you want to do. Really listen to your intuition.
Beautifully
in both
said.
of these.
Yeah.
And I would just say one thing I wanted to add. Are we through with the readings?
Yep, go ahead.
I wanted to add that we are having at Soultopia medium. Dakota knows him also. His name is Dakota Lawrence. He's a very well-known medium, has been in the business since he was 15 years old. He'll be here October 13th and 14th. He's actually doing readings. He's doing a gallery, and he is doing, this is at Dallas, in the Dallas Soultopia. And he's actually going to teach a mediumship class.
Oh, great. Yeah, he's good.
He's very good. He's very interesting. He's very funny. He's very edgy. So, in a good way, kind of fun way. So it should be a really good class. So if you want information on that, you can check in with Soultopia. So he knows a lot about mediumship, and he does other types of readings also, but he does consider himself a psychic medium.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. So.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Please remember to subscribe to us. So we really need our followers to check in and like us both on Facebook and YouTube, and keep Third Eye Thinking.